Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, finally, mercifully, the disaster of 2024 that spilled 5 days into 2025, well, it's ended. It ended with a 27-19 loss in Tampa. Now Saints fans can only hope that real change will begin. What does real change even look like? Is it as simple as a new coach and a few players, or does real change sweep through the entire organization from top to bottom? Or is it somewhere in between? Of course, you'll get my take in Derry's Dime. And as I reply to you on another Mano E Monday, the final one of the regular season, there's plenty to talk about, and I'm sure you have plenty to say. So let's cue the music, and let's start this show.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? You happy? You happy it's over? Or maybe just a tiny bit sad. You know, even in a bad year, there's something about the finality of the whole thing. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm a masochist or something. I don't know. There's part of me there's a big part of me actually that is sad the thing is over. You don't even realize, I don't think truly, that it's over until you actually start watching the playoffs. And this is going to be the fourth season in a row we watch other teams go to the playoffs and not ours. I mean, not something we're used to here. Not something we're used to. It's there hasn't been a season, and even worse, there hasn't been a season like this one in a long, long time. Even in 2005, even in Katrina 2005, you knew it was going to get better in 2006. You were sure it was going to get better because of everything that we had gone through. You had more important things to worry about than the Saints. You knew that the Saints would get better in 2006. I'm not sure you could say that right now. How's that for start of the show and get everyone fired up? You know what could get you fired up? This is Dattitude, episode number 328, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, January the 6th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Derry, 34 plus years in the New Orleans sports media scene. And I thank you for being a part of our ever-growing family. Yeah, it's going to be a busy week. We're getting back to normal. You can hear my voice is almost back to normal. I'm getting there. And, of course, right as I'm starting to feel better, brr. I mean, I don't know where you all live, and you can tell me if you want or whatever. I know where a lot of you regulars live. Some of you are from here, some of you aren't. But I pretty much guarantee you, unless you live like in central to southern Florida or Hawaii or something like that, it's cold wherever you are. It is crazy cold outside already. And it's going to be that kind of week. I saw Kansas City had like 11 inches of snow. Now, see, I like it cold, but I don't like it that freaking cold. So UBN was telling me, I spent the day yesterday over at UBN's house watching football. We had a good time yesterday, just kind of chatting and watching the Saints do their thing and flub their thing. And yeah, we'll get to that part of it in a little bit. But he hates cold weather. I love it. And he said, man, you're going to have a good time this week. And I said, I don't know. It might be even too cold for me. We'll see. So we got Derry's Dime coming up in just a little bit. Of course, we're going to talk to you, Mano E Monday. Got a lot of comments in the queue. Going to get to you in just a minute. Gabe may or may not be on this morning. He's got some meetings. He's probably going to try to stop by for a little bit in the middle somewhere. We'll get him in when we can. You can be a part of the show if you don't already know this by typing in your comment, whether you watch it on YouTube, whether you watch it on Facebook. If you watch it on Facebook or anywhere else, or if you watch it after the fact or listening after the fact, we ask you ever so politely, if you haven't already done so, to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. You can find out when we're going on the air live, which right now, we're going back to our regular schedule after this week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but we are going to have a Thursday show this week. So we're going to have one more week of a four-show week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We got a jam-packed week for you. Wednesday, Mike Detillier. Thursday is our Pick'em show. with Gabe and UBN. We're going to do the 2 college football semifinals games and the 6 NFL playoff games. That should be fun. And then Friday's going to be Larry, and we're going to dive. We're going to have about half Saints talk, half NFL playoff talks. So it should be fun. It's going to be a very, very busy week. I'm going to get to your comments in just a minute. But first, the Saints finished 5-12. Not that you needed me to remind you. But let me tell you about a group that goes 12-5 on a bad day. And that's our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, Evangeline is a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. Darren Rizzi had a business. He'd be calling Nick and Ron. What about Mickey Loomis? Should he call? Should he get ready for what's ahead in his life? I don't know. We're going to get to it. Those guys would be asking Evangeline where they start, and the answer is they will schedule a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street, right across from the Dome. They don't have to go anywhere, or in Lafayette. From there, Rizzi or Loomis, I mean, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? Well, we'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, what we got here? What we got going on in the queue? Good morning. Randall was first. How about that Spencer Rattler 0-6? Nah, we'll get to that in a minute. S. Callie, good morning. And the Who Dat Nation from a frigid Pensacola, Florida. It's frigid in Pensacola, Florida. Charles Mangus, good morning. Hope to stay the whole show. You might have to leave before it's over. You got, oh, Lordy. You might have to have, you're going to have hip replacement surgery. God bless you, brother. I hope everything's all right. Brian S. Steve, good morning, Who Dat Nation. Apathy. Sean Payton took a year off, cut an aging bum that caused an $85 million hit in dead money, drafted a guy nobody thought could play in the NFL. I still don't think he can. That's a whole new story. And returned to the postseason before the Saints could. You got to give him credit. You got to give Sean Payton credit, right? I mean, look, we're going to get over the denying part, like things that I have not given enough credit to. Maybe we'll have a things I was right about and things I was wrong about segment. No, maybe we'll save it for another show. Kyle Sherman, no such thing as Rattitude. I told you. What's one thing I was right about? UBN. He'd like to say congrats to the Detroit Lions, Super Bowl champs. All of the teams are scared of the mighty Campbell and all have forfeited the playoff. Man, that dude, he does the most boneheaded things. It's mind-boggling. That I'm not wrong about. I don't give a damn if he finished 15-2. It won't last. He will not. And I'll sit here and I haven't had to eat a crow po' boy yet. Dan Campbell ain't winning the Super Bowl because he's an idiot. You heard it here. Carrie, good morning, all. Who Dat for life, Saint for life. Yeah, Brian, you're right. Scratch Vrabel's name off the list. He is almost certainly going to go to New England. If you have not heard the news, and most of you, I'm sure, have, Gerard Mayo was fired in New England, which almost certainly means Mike Vrabel is going there. Dime is coming up in just a minute. I got some more messages to get through. We got a few new ones. Diana, I'm not going to even, well, you know what? I am going to try. Diana Pacagini Fimiano. Tell me how close I was on your name. Hello. Welcome to the Dattitude family. Richard Mullenschlatter. Who dat? Let the rebuild begin. Brian says he's only here. Brian Cavett says he's only here for entertainment purposes. Preacher man, another season down the drain. What's Homer going to do? Look, I got to give you credit, man. You stuck with them all year long. You even predicted them to win in that final game of the year. I'm just saying, someone here to this morning was pretty close. I didn't get the score exactly right, but someone was pretty close. Just saying. Douglas, good morning. Happy New Year. Let's go. UBN says I better not complain about the call. I can complain about whatever I want. It's my show. Emily, hello. Nick says it's getting chilly in Biloxi. Ian Evans says I'm not doing good work. Yeah. What do I need to do, Ian, to satisfy you? What do I need to do, Ian, to make it so you think that I'm doing good work? I am trying to impress you the best I can. Tell me. I'm good. Tom and Wendy Burris, the more he and she are thinking, wanting Glenn up here and as a head coach. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Douglas Thornton says his cup is completely empty. He heard numerous words about a Saints spoiler on yesterday when they were their own spoiler. They had 17 games to be a spoiler. Why focus on the last game of the season? I'm telling you, that's a big part of the dime today. Let's see what else we got here. By the way, did anyone notice? We're not going to talk about this today, except for right now. Does anyone notice the Pels won 2 games in a row? That's right, boys and girls. The New Orleans Pelicans got themselves, made sure they couldn't compete, and now they're going to start winning. Of course, they beat the Wizards twice. So that doesn't even count. Michelle, Castro, Eric Glado, Neesmith. My voice is better and no longer hoarse. Great to hear me almost back to normal. I'm almost feeling back to normal. Kyle wants to know, is he wrong to think the Saints should have quadrupled Evans on that last drive so he wouldn't get the record in the $3 million? That is part of the dime. Mike Evans is part of Derry's dime. Adam Varner says he doesn't agree with giving Evans that last catch. I don't think they gave it to him. Who was going to stop him? Although if I were the Saints and if I were the coach, I probably would have hung on him. I would have put 3 guys on. Who cares if they score? I would have put 3 guys on him and just had pass interference, defensive holding, whatever. And he's not scoring. William says, good morning. This will be an interesting but also important offseason. No question about it. Dylan Smith says, good morning to the Hoonat Nation. Snow flurries in Starkville, Mississippi. What? Say it's time to rebuild. Terrence was wrong about Peyton. Thought he'd be fired before the end of the 2025 season. I never thought he would get fired. But I was definitely wrong about, look, you can go back and look at my previews. I think I predicted the Broncos to win 5 games, maybe 6. Doug Peterson got fired this morning. You are right, Charles Mangus. Jaguars are looking for a new coach. That just adds to how many teams are going to be ahead of the Saints in the coach picking process, especially now that Vrabel's going to probably go to New England. Carl Brandon, hello. Terrence says the Patriots did Mayo dirty. Didn't give him a real shot. Here's the point on that, Terrence. First of all, they never should have hired him. He wasn't head coach material. But they hired him as the bridge. Okay. You can't succeed a coach. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just telling you what the thinking is. When you're talking about head coach, look, this is look what happens when you're loyal to a fault, right? You want to be loyal to a guy like Mayo, or you want to win again? Gerard Mayo wasn't ready to be an NFL head coach. He was the bridge to Mike Vrabel is coming. That's what's coming. Saint for Life says, what's crazy is you hear all the names going to interview for a head coaching job, but hasn't heard Ben Johnson's name get mentioned. He is likely not going to take it, but try to get him in the building. Why? Why waste your time? He's not coming here. It's not coming here. It's just not. I mean, I hate to say that, but why would he come here? I mean, sure, you could try to get him in the building. But I think you're just wasting your time. Jason Benson, more about Mike Evans. How they let Mike Evans get his 1,000 yards against us because they couldn't stop him. Because they didn't. The only way you were going to stop him is do what I just said. And that's to literally, what's coming. I mean, you can kneel on the ball. There's no reason to do anything but kneel on the ball. So what did you do? They line up in 3 wide. Why they line up in 3 wide? 8 Town's here. Good morning. Doesn't mean to toot his own horn, but Called 5-12 or 6-11 beginning of the season. Check the receipts. I don't need to check the receipts. I know you called for it. I mean, I don't think any of us knew Spencer Rattler was going to start 6 games this year, though. But I do congratulate you for getting the record right. I'm not sure that you should be excited about it, though. Terrence says he just didn't think he would get fired this year. I hear you. I'm just saying. I think what we saw this year, they weren't going to win. John Pace, good morning. Why wouldn't Johnson or Vrabel come here? NOLA's a good destination. Sure, if you want a good place to live. But as far as a franchise, first of all, if you're Vrabel, you want to go back to New England because that's where you want to go. Okay? That's been the destination for Mike Vrabel since the beginning. All right? Let's get real. We know that's where Mike Vrabel wanted to go. Terrence says he called 5-12. I said the floor was for this team was 5-12. I said the ceiling was 10 wins, the floor was 5 wins, and then I thought they would win 7. They hit the floor. Of course, if you would have told me in the beginning of the season before we even started that Rattler was going to start 6 games, I probably would have predicted 5-12. Thank you, Kyle. I wasn't going to say it, but if you want to bring it up, I'll be like the weather person who likes to brag on themselves. Sure. I definitely said to the car haters in August, I got receipts too. I don't know if this is an exact quote, but it's pretty darn close. We can go find it. I said, if Rattler or Haener is your starting quarterback, the Saints are in deep doo-doo. Rattler started 6 games. Haener started another game. They went 0-7. Carr went 5-5. You can hate Derek Carr. 5-5, good? No, not really. I'm not saying it's anything to brag about, but you're also talking about, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care that they played better. The offensive line played better than a lot of people expected them to play. That doesn't mean they were good. They were not good. They were just shy of awful. Okay? They were the reason why Derek Carr missed 7 games this season. I said that he would get him killed. I said it in a facetious manner. Of course, I didn't mean they would literally get him killed. But they got him hurt pretty darn bad. All right, we got some more comments, and we're going to have the rest of the show is Mano E Monday, but we got to get to Derry's dime. Okay, it's the final dime of the season. All right. This is, if you're new to the show, this is where I type up my prepared comments. It is the only scripted part of the show, except for the ads, of course, in the very beginning. Transparent here on Dattitude. But it's the only scripted part of the show, and I do it every Monday after a game. I'll probably have another dime at some point when they hire a new coach or whatever. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? For the most part, this is it, and this is how we finish it up. And watching the New Orleans Saints throughout my lifetime, I've been a part of many a season finale. I think back to my childhood when they all sucked. When you just prayed for a chance to be 8-8 and one day go to the playoffs. For quite some time, those days disappeared. For a brief time in the mid to late 1990s, except for those times, remember, Ditka, the end of the Mora years, the interim coach, all that. Yeah, except for that brief time, the days of us stinking every year, they've been gone. They've been gone for a long time. In this century, even if there were a mediocre season, you knew your team would have a chance to be okay in the next go-round. This time, it's different. Except for the Katrina season of 2005, the Saints hadn't finished with fewer than 7 wins in a season since 1999. That's right, Mike Ditka's final campaign, when the team wrapped up 7 straight non-winning seasons. Sunday proved to me how far this team has to go to be truly relevant again, and why we might be in a similar boat as the end of the Ditka era. I'm not trying to bring you down. I'm just telling you the truth. Coming Wednesday, Mike Detillier will be on this show, just as he's been a few times this year. I'm sure we'll get into what he said almost a year ago, right here on this spot, when he said the Saints were in, quote, football purgatory. I insist it's worse than that. Purgatory in human terms has the word temporary inferred in it. And while in the grand scheme of things, everything is temporary, I don't see the light. I don't see a way out in the near term. Darren Rizzi talked about in his press conference yesterday that the disintegration of the Saints in the second half was not for a lack of 1-2. Rather, the team played with intense heart and pride, considering there was absolutely nothing at all to play for. But is that good enough? Is that what we're striving for today? Is that where we are with this team? Does that give you confidence on what could come in the future? Hell, we don't even know how many of those 35 to 40 players who got on the field Sunday will even be a part of this team going forward. We know the only chance that Rizzi has to be here next year is for him to accept his old spot back as special teams coordinator. And that's only if the next coach wants him. But despite the fact the Saints gave their best effort in a game not started by Derek Carr and or Alvin Kamara and or Taysom Hill this season, tell me when you really thought the Saints had a chance yesterday. When it was 16-6, I was betting Tampa at -4.5. That's how sure I was that this was going to go south. And if you gave truth serum to the interim coach in his final game of a 3-5 run, well, he probably felt the same way.
As I said to the guys in the locker room, it certainly wasn't about heart or effort or passion or want to. Again, for us to be playing for nothing, essentially meaning the postseason, and for our guys to go out there and give the effort they gave is pretty remarkable. Right up to the end of the game, right up to the very, very last play of the season, our guys are fighting, scratching, clawing, and so that's a credit to them. But at the same time, if we don't get some of these things cleaned up, the results will continue to be the same, in the future. So.
Easily caught a short pass that handed him a milestone that Sean Payton would have never let him have. 1,000 yards receiving in each of his first 11 seasons, tying a record with the great Jerry Rice. If Marshawn Lattimore were still here, you think he would have just let Evans make that catch, whether it mattered or not? Lattimore's gone, as are most of the other Saints who made this team relevant in the days a half decade ago in which New Orleans was fighting to go to a Super Bowl, not getting ready to host one. Almost all the others who remain here are either here in name only or waiting for the call to see when or where their careers might end. A guy on the Mount Rushmore of Saints, Cameron Jordan, was close to tears in the locker room on Sunday, as he knew there's a very good chance his 14-year run of wearing black and gold have come to an end. Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill ended their seasons on the injured list, and one has to wonder if Hill will ever return. Kamara likely will, but how long before he is traded or at 30 years old next year, how many games do we think he will play if another season turns sour in a hurry? Demario Davis will celebrate his 36th birthday later this week, and he has just 1 year remaining on his contract. The same goes for hometown hero Tyrann Mathieu. Very soon, this team won't resemble the current team. Just 5 years ago, we would have shuddered the thought. Today, we welcome it. Things have got to change. They have got to change in grand fashion, and it needs to happen in a hurry. We'll find out just how much the Saints brass agrees by the end of the week. And that's my dime. One thing I found interesting yesterday is I go through and you saw me run the clip of Rizzi, and normally I talk about who we're going to hear from today, but I don't think that anything the Saints offered to me was worth a damn, except for Rizzi, and I got another comment coming up from him later. But one thing they normally do that they didn't do yesterday is they normally run locker room interviews. The Saints should have run a clip from Cameron Jordan yesterday. We had some talk. In fact, I'm going to do this as I try to do this live, and I'm never good at trying to do these kinds of things live. But there is a quote in Matt Paris's story, Saints Insider story. Let me find it here. From Cam Jordan. Again, I don't know why the Saints refused to. They should have put him up today. I love Jordan. I love Jordan. I love the Saints because they've always been able to bounce back, Cam Jordan says. I've trusted up top for a long time. If this is the first time I have questions, I'm sure there will be answers to be found. Cam Jordan said he's in, quote, we talked about football purgatory. Jordan says he's been in, quote, personal purgatory when his snaps were limited. He didn't want to play defensive tackle, but they wanted to sign Chase Young. What did that get him? Just going through, and I'm trying to find it. Cam Jordan also said in a 5-12 season, there will be questions. Of course there will be. He says there will be, quote, an air of uncertainty. He says there's no aspect that I can be like, dang, I wish I could have, because I've done it all except for a Super Bowl, I guess. He knows his days here are numbered. He knows that the chance that he's going to come back for Cam Jordan to come back next year, and I'm not saying he will or won't. It's 50-50 at best. For him to come back next year, it'll take massive contract realignment. Are they even going to be kind of able to afford him? What else is going to need to be changed? I'm not trying to make this what some of you think I'm making, the Rattler lovers, okay? And I know there still are a few. I don't know how you can be after what you've seen. This is just a microcosm. Spencer Rattler is a microcosm of where this team is. And I use him as an example. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. Being realistic. 0-6 is a starter. Williams says, can the Rattler lovers finally admit that he's not a NFL starting quarterback? 0-6 falls apart in the second half of games. Someone please tell Rattler they play 4 quarters in the NFL. And here's the numbers that tell it all to me. You talking about not being able to play in the second half? 6, count them, 6 second half points in his 6 starts. 6. Even with my limited Shaw math skills, I can tell you that is 1 point per game in the second half of his starts. Am I blaming him? No. I've already told you that in some respects, I'm giving him an out because he never, once, he never really played with the full complement of players, but really neither did Derek Carr except the very beginning of the season. Lord Licorice, that is bad. Yeah, it's bad. It's awful. Aaron Miller says not really Spencer's fault. Stop saying it's not his fault. Why do people continue? Again, I'm not blaming him wholly. It's certainly not wholly his fault. It can't be. I'm saying he's a microcosm, but this is where we are in the thought process of some Saints fans who are, you know what this is though? Besides the fact that these people, whoever's taking 100% of the people taking up for Spencer Rattler just purely hate Derek Carr. There's nothing else there. But you know what else it is? It's people trying to find some glimmer of hope. And that's what I've talked about in this show and what today's dime focused on. I would love to have hope. I'm a hopeful kind of guy. I'm a optimistic dude. I'm a glass half full dude, usually. I'm kind of a glass, I don't know, 2/5 full maybe. I tell it like it is. But if I have to choose between optimism and pessimism, I'm going to choose optimism. The problem is, and that's where I think the Rattlers, they just want something different, and I get it. In the 4 years post Drew Brees, we've seen this team consistently go down and down and down. Is this rock bottom? God, I hope so. But it might not be. David Dukas says equal blame all around. Players not catching balls, quarterbacks missteps, defense not making tackles, coaches not coaching, controlling the clock is all over the place. I don't disagree with you. But when you lead a team to 6 second half points in 6 starts, meanwhile, one of those starts, Haener came in and replaced you and scored 7 points. So Haener has more second half points in your starts, Spencer Rattler, than you have. Think about that for a second. I'm not saying Haener's any good. He ain't the answer either. What I'm saying is this is, again, a microcosm. You got a clean house. Emily Varner. Rattler is still expected to play quarterback and win the game. So yes, it's his fault, regardless of other players. It's partly his fault. Aaron comes back, says he's not looking for hope. Team is 4 years late to start a 5-year rebuild, just kicking that can. Don't disagree with you there, my friend. But the only way you can just go and not kick the can, clean house. Are they going to do it? I have no idea. Here we go. Douglas is hating on Carr. Saints record is not because of Rattler or Hainer, it's because of Carr. Douglas, I respect you. I appreciate you for being a part of the Dattitude family because you've been here for a while. But facts are facts. Rattler and Hainer start, they're 0-7. Derek Carr started, they're 5-5. Again, I'm not loving on 5-5. I'm not saying 5-5 is great, but 5-5 is about as well as Carr or anyone could have done with what this team has had and the leadership that it's had. Top to bottom. Top to bottom. Jason says these are the same people who think Winston is a starter. Yeah. Winston tried to be one. Charles says there were a few plays where Rattler could have scrambled and he didn't. That's, part of what I have a problem with Spencer Rattler. And again, this is not the Spencer Rattler show. It's not, this again, a symbol, an icon of all the things that need to be changed. David, you're right. Jake did not get the same opportunity that Rattler got. He didn't. He had one bad half and they took him out. They had one bad half. Jake Haener, that half that he played terrible, and Rattler played 3 really good quarters. The one against Tampa Bay where they lost 51-27, and he had that really good second quarter. And the second half when he came in against the Commanders and almost led him to a victory. So he played 3 good quarters out of, we'll say he had 6 starts. So that's what, 26 quarters? 3 good quarters out of, you want to give him a good quarter and against the Raiders? Sure, whatever. It is what it is. On the coaching front, I'm going to go to this coaching slide here. I don't really want to talk too much about Rattler, but Darren Rizzi is going to speak today at 1:15 p.m. What's he going to say? Probably not a whole lot. A-Town says, who really wants to come here? That is the number one problem going forward. Number one problem going forward. Who's going to want to come here? Terrence says the offensive line is the largest of many issues. Nail, meathead. I'm going to bring in Gabe in just a minute because Gabe is in the green room and he's got some other things to do. So we're going to bring him in for just a minute. But the Saints will draft 9th, okay? We're going to come back. This is how we're going to end this show today later. But talking about where the Saints will draft, they moved up a spot because the Chicago Bears did what the Chicago Bears do. They kicked the field goal at the end of the game. It's good. Oh, wait. Oh, crap. It's good. It's not really good. It's bad. They did what they did. It's good for the Saints. Saints moved up to 9th. I thought they were going to move up when the Jets won, but no, I didn't realize strength of schedule was the reason. But so that leads into Terrence's point of offensive line. We're going to spend the next couple months before the draft talking about this. And I know all of you, and we're going to talk about it with Mike Detillier. I think he's on the same boat as me. When Mike comes on Wednesday, we're going to talk about this. But I am going to say the same thing I've said for this will be the 3rd year in a row that I say it. If the Saints do anything but trade the pick or take an offensive lineman, they're moronic. I'll quantify it with one thing. It would be hard. Like I said last year, it would be hard to pass up Brock Bowers if he was still available. And that got proven. The Raiders took him right before the Saints did. And if the Saints would have taken him, which they probably wouldn't have anyway, but if they would have taken him, could have made all the world. Could have made all the difference in the world. I mean, that dude's going to be like a beast for the next 10 years. I'm going to say that this year about Ashton Genty. If Genty's available at 9, it's going to be tough to pass him up. I don't feel the same as a Scatabo, but anyway. Black Preacher Man says, this is the situation we find ourselves. Loomis was the person who put it all together. Yes. He's also the person who put together the Super Bowl. How long does that last? I don't know. Terrence says it was 5 good quarters. Okay. 5 out of 24 ain't good. Barry says, why is this team so lean on talent? Depth. They don't have any. All right, we're going to get back to some of the comments here. By the way, Silver Gator, what was your... I sincerely and truly hope you are not comparing Peyton Manning to Spencer Rattler. I promise you, Peyton Manning had a lot more than, okay, let's extrapolate 5 quarters. Let's multiply that to 15. I promise you Peyton Manning had more than 15 good quarters in his rookie season. And the answer is he won 3. Spencer Rattler would have won 0. If the Saints started Spencer Rattler in 17 games, they would have gone 0-17. I'm 100% convinced of that. Just saying. Kyle says said the same thing about O-line last year. Yeah. Again, this is going to be the 3rd year in a row. I agree. All right, we're going to come back to comments. I want to bring in Gabe because he doesn't have a lot of time. And by the way, congratulations to your Houston Texans. I needed them to win yesterday to get my exact number of 10 wins right on them. So I'm pretty happy about that. But look, this is I don't know. What did you see from the Saints? Did you think they were going to win at any point yesterday?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I was hoping they were because I had a Falcons future in the division, which it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Falcon too. As soon as they realized they weren't going to the playoffs, they just played like chumps.
You know the worst part of it, Jim? I had a Panthers over 5.5 wins ticket, and they flirted with wins over the last month and a half. They've flirted with so many wins, and they just haven't been able to close it out.
Right.
And then they finally win one yesterday and pull me within 1. It's just awful. But back to the Texans.
2 years in a row for the Panthers doing that.
Yeah. Back to the Texans real quick, though. I didn't care at all about yesterday's game. Not one bit. I didn't even watch it. Watch Red Zone all day. However, it is always nice beating the Titans when they try and pull that petty crap where they put the Oilers uniforms on. They're now 0-2 against the Texans all time.
Yesterday, I told UBN, and I had seen it earlier in the week that they were going to wear them, and I'm ticked at myself because I didn't bet it. But then UBN says we were having some fun yesterday, live betting when the Saints were up, like free money. Oh, Tampa Bay. He bet him at he got Tampa Bay at -1.5. I got him at -4.5. Turns out we both ended up winning. But as soon as the Titans, why do they continue to wear that uniform? You're not proving anything except that you're going to get your ass kicked. I don't understand why they wear those uniforms against Houston.
0-2 all time against them. And here's the thing.
It pisses off even more because they wouldn't let the Texans wear those colors in an alt uniform, which is ridiculous.
The owner's just incredibly petty. And you know what's even funnier than looking at their 0-2 record? Go look at the 2 quarterbacks that they lost to in those games.
Well, they lost to Davis Mills yesterday.
They lost to Davis Mills yesterday, and they lost to Case Keenum last year.
Oh, Lord. Well, yeah, that goes to show a lot. All right, let's talk a little bit about the coaching carousel, and obviously with the Saints. Now, look, as we look at the hierarchy of who's going to want to go where, I mean, even Aaron Glenn, who I'm not real fired up about. I know you've talked about you like Aaron Glenn, right?
I do. I really.
And
like
so, the reason why I'm not fired up on Aaron Glenn is twofold: because he has been a part of this coaching staff before, and I want somebody new. I don't want any kind of tie to the past. Okay, but a bigger reason is I think this team really needs an offensive guy, and obviously Aaron Glenn is a defensive guy. However, I'm not strongly opposed to Aaron Glenn. If he were to become the coach, maybe it would be a good thing. We'll see. But all that being said, now he's being linked to Bears' job, maybe Jets' job. Why would Aaron Glenn even want to come here? He's got ties to the Jets too. I mean, he played for the Jets, so I mean, maybe that's what he's thinking.
It's interesting. I think back to the point about defensive and offensive coaches. I think Aaron Glenn can work if Aaron Glenn takes a page out of Dan Campbell's book and he really, and this is, say what you will about guys like Dan Campbell and Coach O, a lot of head coaches are incredibly self-centered and they egotistical. They think a lot of themselves. But then you look at guys like Dan Campbell and Coach O, who they said to themselves, maybe I'm not the smartest mind in the room, and maybe
Right.
I need to surround myself with some of those guys. So if someone like Aaron Glenn can bring in a smart offensive mind, I think it could work really well. I think one of the reasons I like him a lot is because he has ties with the organization, and he's not so deeply rooted like someone like Dennis Allen to where it's a negative thing. I think it's almost a positive thing. He has a soft spot for the organization. He would like to see them succeed and carry them through this period, which it's going to be a tough period.
Yeah,
and it's going to take a special person to carry him through it, and I think Aaron Glenn could definitely do that.
Rocky is asking a question that a few people have. Liam Cohen, and here's the problem with Liam Cohen. Okay, I mean, 2 years ago he was coaching Kentucky's offense, the University of Kentucky.
He made Will Levis look decent.
Look, I know, but I'm just saying. I mean, that's a leap, and I get what he's done with Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay, in the grand scheme of things, their running game got better, but it's because I think their offensive line was better. Baker Mayfield played out of his mind in the grand scheme of things. And Bucky Irving was outstanding. So it's not all on Liam Cohen. I'm not a fan of it. And look, I'm talking about offense, and he certainly fits the mold. He's young. He hasn't been a part of this organization. So he kind of checks every box, but I'm worried about a guy who hasn't really been in the NFL that long.
Everything I'm about to say is based solely off my gut feeling. I have no inside sources, no knowledge of anything other than what I read from Adam Schefter. I don't feel like the Saints are going to go after someone like Liam Cohen. I don't
either.
I think Cohen is more. Before I came on, I just typed up a quick list of predictions in case we run through the openings. I think Cohen is going to end up somewhere, if he gets a job, end up somewhere like Jacksonville, where you've already got the quote-unquote franchise quarterback in place, and you need to really turn him around there. I don't think he would really go somewhere like New Orleans, where there's no clear offensive plan going forward, no real future to get excited about on that side of the ball. Yeah. It just doesn't really make too much sense for me.
But I mean, you're basically what you're saying is he's going to have he's sounding like he's getting into Ben Johnson territory, and I just don't know that are that many teams going to want the guy because he had one good year in Tampa?
I mean, if you look at the best coaches available right now, there's not many offensive minds outside of Ben Johnson. So I think if a team is really interested in Ben Johnson and he goes elsewhere, I think that team could pivot to someone like Joe Brady or Liam Cohen.
Yeah, we'll see. And I think Joe Brady is probably going to get a listen. Look, the Saints are going to
absolutely.
I think the Saints are going to cover all bases. And first of all, we're not going to really know until Loomis has his press conference, which is later this week. We don't know what day for sure. I was asking Zach about it yesterday. We're not still sure that Loomis is going to be the one making the call. I mean, he'll probably have a say so, but even if he remains quote unquote GM in name only, I don't know that he's going to be the one fully making this decision. So people are talking about Loomis and blah, 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 but I'm not 100% sure that he's going to be the one pulling the trigger completely on this decision.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think any real coaching searches are all up to one man. You might have one odd search that is, but I really think it's going to be a delegation.
I do too, and I think that Gail Benson actually is going to probably put her nose in there as well as she should, and find out. You got to go back to what works for this team. You got to have someone that's, I know this is going to sound weird, but if you had a combination of a Dennis Allen and Darren Rizzi, okay. First of all, Rizzi's way over the top emotional. It was. I get he's emotional, but he proved yesterday. Look, it's one thing to be emotional. It's another thing to just go off your rocker. I mean, there were some things he was protesting yesterday. Like, what are you mad about? I mean, it's clearly the right call. I mean, you can't get that upset about it. And meanwhile, you got Dennis Allen who doesn't get mad about anything. So if you put those two together, both of whom who Dennis Allen knew a lot about what he was doing. He just didn't know how to lead men. Rizzi, I think, knows how to lead men for the most part. He just needed to cool his jets a little bit. You put those two guys together, you might actually have a decent coach.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, not that we'll ever. I mean, Douglas finds that funny.
Muschamp crazy. Love that.
He was Muschamp crazy. Yeah, Darren, you're right. All right, final thoughts before we let you go here this morning. Is there anything you want to make? We're going to have you on Thursday. We're going to do a pick'em show. We're going to talk about. We're going to do the 2 college games. We're going to do the 6 NFL playoff games. But I know you want to talk coaching search. What is your parting thought here this Monday morning, which is Black Monday in the NFL?
Since I just ran through it, or since I just hinted at it, I guess I'll run through it here. My little predictions that I made for the openings, and the Raiders' job isn't open yet, but I did put them on here because I think they will come open. So my predictions, some of these might surprise you. Starting off with the first one, Jets. I think they go Rex Ryan.
Rex Ryan.
I think they go with Rex Ryan. He's shown a desire to come back. Yeah, he's shown a desire to come back. That franchise is just running around like a chicken with its head cut off right now.
Oh no!
They could use something just to steady the ship, and I think Rex Ryan could do that. I think the Patriots is the most obvious one.
Yeah, well, we know who's going there.
I think it's Vrabel.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I think it's Vrabel. The second that they fire Gerard Mayo is going to be Vrabel.
And they had to do it now because they couldn't wait because they know Vrabel's going to be interviewed by
exactly. And I think that's why they did it. Jags, I have any mix of Joe Brady, Liam Cohen, Kellen Moore. I don't think they end up with Ben Johnson, and that's exactly why I think they go after the next best offensive mind. I think the Raiders go after Brian Flores. Bears get Ben Johnson. Saints get Aaron Glenn.
You know what would be hilarious? And I've heard this rumor to the Jets. Arthur Smith.
I saw that they were interviewing. I'll one up you, Bobby Slowick.
Oh, either one of those two guys. Arthur Smith would be great in the Jets.
Oh my goodness, it would be. And I'll say this. I do have a parting thought.
Okay, go ahead.
How in the hell is Raheem Morris still keeping his job?
I have no earthly idea. How do you not have a winning record with that team in this division?
If you look at,
he's Dennis Allen.
If you're the Falcons, why would you not fire him and go after Ben Johnson? Because if Atlanta comes open,
could you imagine Ben Johnson with that team?
Immediately, the most attractive job.
100%. I couldn't agree any more than I do with that.
I don't understand. And not only I didn't understand the hire at the time, I don't understand why they keep him.
That is I have never agreed to a statement more than what you just said on this show.
Yeah.
And we agree a lot more than we do. Than people think we do. But
we definitely do.
All right. I will see you Wednesday. I don't know if you're gonna be on the show Wednesday, but Thursday it's gonna be just me, you, and UBN. But
good.
One way or the other, I will see you Wednesday.
Cool.
See you. Gabe Henderson, everybody. Yeah, really. What are the Falcons thinking? Terrence, Atlanta's a better job. No kidding. Of course Atlanta's a better job. Saints are absolutely a better job than the Bears or Jets if you really think through it. Why, dude? Man. I know. Look, Bears maybe, okay? And look, I don't want to be a hypocrite because I sat here and I told you in August, we talked about the hierarchy of places I would rather be or would rather coach, and the teams that the Saints would rather be. I was wrong about a lot of those. You're right, Terrence. Bears job totally relies on Caleb Williams, totally, in caps. You're right, but who does the Saints job rely on? I don't know, man. I hear where you're coming from, but I don't know that I can agree with that at all. All right, we got some other things to talk about. We're gonna talk more about Rizzi. We'll talk about Rattler if you want to. I'm personally done with him, but that's up to y'all. If y'all want to talk about Rattler, we can. But we're definitely gonna talk about Saints 2025 opponents. And the Saints caught a big break yesterday. I know it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, that people might not think that it matters all that much, but the Saints caught a huge, huge break when the Panthers won and the Saints lost. I'll tell you why in just a minute. We told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, you know this already. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, like them in this state. I mean, think about it. Out of all the people who do what they do, Nick and Ryan might be the only ones who actually eat red beans on Mondays. Just saying. None of the companies around here in this state or anywhere else in this vicinity come with their dedication and success. I promise you. I've been there. I've talked to them. They are fully licensed. They are ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, as we told you, Darren Rizzi is going to talk this afternoon at 1:15 p.m. If you're listening after the fact, you may have already heard what he had to say. I don't think he's going to say all that much, although I could be wrong. Is he going to announce that he knows he's not going to be the next coach? I doubt it, but maybe. We'll be checking in on that. What did he say yesterday? I think what he said yesterday said a lot, actually. We got a 1 minute and 22-second clip from Darren Rizzi. When we come back, we will finish talking about him and talk about the Saints' 2025 opponents when we, as we round out the show. You got anything else to say? Now's your time to get your comments in on this final game, Mano E Monday of the season. It's not the final Mano E Monday of the year. We're going to have more of these. We're going to keep doing it. But it's the last one of this season. I know you got plenty to say. 1 minute and 22 seconds. We'll be right back.
I hear you. The playing the complete game, 4 quarters, is something that we have not done a good job of here, especially these final 3 weeks. I'm emotional because I really wanted to get this win today to end the season on a positive note for everybody, the team, the organization, the city, the fan base. So, I really haven't started to process all the, all that part of it yet. I think you guys have pretty figured out by now that I'm a see what you see is what you get kind of guy. So I'm going to be, passionate about everything. And so I'm just still trying to absorb this game. I'm still upset about this result, and we'll take that. We'll start tomorrow, and we'll figure out, what the plan is moving forward. So, yeah, listen, we'll come in tomorrow. We'll have everybody. We'll have our final team meeting, and the guys will do all their exit stuff. And then, listen, I'll sit down with obviously with Mickey and Mrs. Benson and the front office. They have to go through no matter what happens with me, they have to go through the interview process, the NFL interview process. I know I'll be a part of that. But other than that, I'll start, hopefully get a few days off and try to reflect on everything and kind of go from there. I'm hurting right now for the guys in the locker room. They're really emotional. That was one where, there were some guys that aren't usually emotional post-game and that affects me because I love those guys. I love that locker room.
It says he knows he's going to be a part of the interview process. Good for you. He can't realistically think he's going to get the job. And honestly, the Saints should do him a favor and tell him right now, you ain't getting a job. If they do anything else today, if they haven't told him already, I hope they have. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But I would hope they wouldn't waste this guy's time or get his hopes up. If he has his hopes up, he's not getting a job. Now, I think whoever comes in here needs to clean house, except for I'd keep Rizzi. I think Rizzi did a hell of a job as a special teams coordinator, and I wouldn't mind having him as assistant head coach if something happened. It's fine. But no. Derek Branch wants to know what I think about Todd Monken. Look, a lot to be said for what Todd Monken did in Baltimore. He does fit the bill. He fits the requirements. He's a young guy, a coordinator, an offensive guy. Look, I've said this before. I didn't think that the 2 MVPs that Lamar Jackson won. I think that he almost won him by default. One of them he won. The first one he won because, I don't know, there was just the swell around Lamar Jackson. I'd have to go back and look and see. I don't even remember who else was up. Last year he won by default. There just wasn't anyone that was great last year, in my opinion. This year, Josh Allen's the favorite. I would personally vote for Saquon Barkley, but if you're going to vote for a quarterback, I don't think there's any doubt that Lamar Jackson's been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. It's not even close in my opinion. So if you're going to give the MVP to a quarterback, I know you just gave it to him, but that's your bad. And part of that's because of Todd Monken. A big part of it's because of Derrick Henry. Goes to show you can't do anything without being able to run the football. So that's my long-winded roundabout answer to Todd Monken. I'm not going to say no. He's going to be up there as a candidate. You got to talk to him. One thing you're going to see is they're going to talk to a whole lot of people. Because there's multiple reasons why they're going to talk to a whole lot of people. They don't want you to know that whoever their first choice is, and probably second choice, and maybe even third choice, ain't taking the job. They don't want you to know that. Whenever they make a choice, they want you to think that, hey, this was the guy. I can promise you, if Loomis stays on and whatever, whoever the GM is, I can promise you they're going to put this huge spin on. This is the guy we wanted the whole time. And unless it's Aaron Glenn, they can't say that with a straight face. Okay? They just can't. Because there aren't a lot of people going to want this job. I think Aaron Glenn may end up wanting this job, but that's only if he gets turned down by a couple other places. Let's see. Is Aaron Glenn part of the Dennis Allen coaching tree? But no, I guess technically yes. I mean, I know you're kind of being goofy there. He's really part of the Sean Payton tree, but yeah, he worked for Dennis Allen. He was here when Dennis Allen was the defensive coordinator. I'm not going to hold that again. He also worked for a team that just went 15-2. And in fact, in part because he was there, they went 15-2. Douglas Thornton says, he's pissed and jealous because other fans get to enjoy the postseason. Remember when we used to do that every year? Yet again, we have to watch. We had 18 games to spoil another team's season. We didn't. It's exactly our fault. Got to come into this new era of football. You know, whereas they must have said it, I don't know, 6-8 times yesterday in the broadcast. By the way, I was shocked that we got Fox's #1 broadcast crew yesterday. Tom Brady. By the way, Tom Brady, and I hadn't listened to Tom Brady in a while. Got to give UBN's right. He is much better than he was at the beginning of the season. And part of it is as I go off on it, like my ADHD kicking in here. Can't focus on one thing. Brady is much better because he will tell you more the way that it is now instead of in the beginning of the season when he was trying to sugarcoat everything and dance around stuff. There was one quote, in fact, I typed it into myself and I almost forgot here. I got to call this up. You got to hear this. And I don't mean to be pissing on Spencer Rattler here again, but I got to read this quote. This is an example of why Brady's better. And he'll just get on you. There was a play, and I think he was trying to throw it to Cedric Wilson. It was definitely in the second half, and he threw it about, 4 yards in front of him. Like no one, it wasn't even getting picked, nothing. And he wasn't trying to throw it away. He was literally trying to get it, and I think to Cedric Wilson. And Tom Brady said, quote, "You asked me if I ever gave anyone an F throw. That's an F throw." What happened on the next play? His first read was covered, and he got sacked. Just saying. I mean, you watched that second half of that game yesterday. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about Spencer Rattler unless someone wanted me to. But that was a perfect example of why this dude, I don't even think can be a backup. I don't even want him as a backup in here. Go back and watch it again. The whole game, okay? Tampa Bay made adjustments at halftime. I don't even know why they needed to make adjustments. They've already played them. But you watch Spencer Rattler, and this doesn't change, man. This doesn't change. Go back and watch this. Whoever his first read is, that's who he throws to every single time. Why did he only get sacked in the second half? Because in the first half, his first read was open, or at least open enough for him to throw to. If his first read's not open, he panics and he gets sacked. Just saying. Also, by the way, I sent a note to myself. Baker Mayfield, before yesterday, another thing to be sad about, was 0-43 when trailing by 10-plus points in the second half. 0-43. Now he's 1-43. Dylan, you were right. Falcons were going to Falcon. Terrence, you gave him an F. Give him a different kind of F. Kyle says, amen, he can't get to his third or fourth read, occasionally checks down. No, yesterday, again, go back and watch the game. If you have it on tape, if not, you can find plays on YouTube, okay? Part of the scheme, okay? Kubiak's scheme yesterday was not for him to have a check down. It was to go straight to the check down. That was the play. It was little dump offs. It's like they used to do with Bobby Hebert. Remember the short dinks and dunks with Bobby Hebert? That's part of the game plan. UBN, we counted 14 in a row. I mean, if he looked to the left, ask UBN. I was calling the play before it happened. I don't know football well enough to call plays. We haven't on a regular basis. John wants me to give a summary of the Saints cap situation for the next few years to provide the best insight to the timeline to improve. You want to know the Saints cap situation? In my best Mr. T voice, it's pain. That's what it is. Pain. Just like Rocky 3. Rainy Cajun says half this audience was in diapers during the Bobby era. That's probably true. I don't know. We actually have an older audience for the most part. Caesar Michael Eloy, or Elwa. Is it Elwa? Elwa, maybe. I would never want to be in a position that allows commentators to comment on my moves as an athlete. Fierce. I'm not 100% sure I know what that means. Apathy says, good old Bobby Hebert, 3 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in the postseason. Yeah, remember that Philly game? Yikes. All right. Again, we will talk more on Wednesday with Mike Detillier about Darren Rizzi, although I'm hoping he tells us at 1:15, and we're going to get off the air soon because get you prepared so you can go watch that live. I know how much you want to watch that live. I think that you'll be able to, hopefully he'll come out and tell you he's not going to be the next Saints coach. I mean, we know he's not going to be the Saints head coach, but don't get this dude's heads up. Hopes up. All right. Saints 2025 foes. We're going to finish with this and where the Saints draft next year as we work our way into off-season content. Okay. You can only talk so much about what happened yesterday. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't even really matter what happened yesterday. And we also told you before I got to the ad that the Panthers did the Saints a huge favor, and the Falcons for that matter. You know, it's funny. The Falcons were rooting for the Saints to win yesterday. I mean, we knew the Saints weren't going to win yesterday. But we were rooting for the Saints to lose, not only because we wanted the Falcons to lose and not go to the playoffs and not have a chance, whatever. We wanted the Falcons to lose just because we wanted the Falcons to lose. And because by the Falcons losing, the Panthers winning to go to 5-12, and the Saints now at 5-12, it means the Saints drop to 4th place. They finish in last place in the NFC South. And why that matters is this. You swap out 3 of your opponents with the Panthers. So if you would have finished 3rd, you see where there's Giants, where there's Bears, and where there's Titans, that's the fourth place team. Everything else besides those three teams is the same with everyone else in the division. The rest of the division, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Bucks, they all get Arizona, San Francisco. Now, they might not get them at home or away. It may be different home and away. But they all get Arizona, San Francisco, the Rams, and Seattle. We play the NFC West next year. They all get the AFC East. That's going to be fun. The Patriots, Jets, Bills, and Dolphins. But it's the other three opponents that are different. Had the Saints either won or had the Falcons defeated the Panthers yesterday, instead of Giants at home, Bears on the road, and Titans on the road, the Saints would have got Cowboys at home, Packers on the road again, and Jaguars on the road. That's pretty cool. So the Saints, once again, I can promise you going into next year, we've been talking about it for 2 years in a row now. 2 years ago, or last year, I should say. Last year, the Saints had the easiest schedule in the NFL by far. Only them and the Falcons were even kind of close. This year, the Falcons had the easiest schedule in the NFL, still went 8-9. The Saints were like 28th or something like that, 29th, somewhere in that ballpark. I guarantee you it's going to be a similar thing next year. When we talk in August about strength of schedule and do previews, the Saints are going to be in the 28 to 32 ballpark of schedule strength. Does that mean that I think that the Saints are going to have a good chance to go higher than the 5-12? I don't know. Sean, absolutely. Don't you hate seeing so many former Saints players balling on other teams? Absolutely. I was talking with my son last night about, I know Trey Hendrickson is not a great example because the Saints couldn't keep Trey Hendrickson. He cost too much. But you see other guys look at Ellis playing for the Falcons. Look for Zach Bond playing for the Eagles. I don't know. Preacher Man wants to know if I have a comment on Mrs. Benson being at the game yesterday with Lauscha. She's always with Lauscha. And not Loomis. What is my read on that? I don't have any read on that whatsoever. She's always hanging out with Lauscha. Lauscha is the Benson's right-hand man and has been. You can think it's Loomis. It's not. Loomis is up there. He's part of the hierarchy. But Lauscha is the man. In fact, Lauscha's probably going to help make this decision on whoever the next coach is and whether or not Loomis stays or goes and whether they try to coerce Loomis into, hey, why don't you take an advisory role? Yeah, Anzalone last night. Anzalone playing for the Lions last night was, it is what it is. But you look at the Sean Payton coaching in Denver. Dan Campbell, part of the tree. Aaron Glenn coaching for Dan Campbell, part of the tree. It is what it is. Saints got to get back there, man. It's not going to be easy. We're going to hear from Mickey Loomis again later this week. We don't know what day as I sit here right now. I don't know what day. He may have announced it this morning and I didn't see it. But Mickey Loomis is, I've said this before, if he truly, unless there's something we don't know behind the scenes, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Maybe he'll be coerced. We'll never know the answer. But if Mickey Loomis truly wants to be a part of another rebuild at his age, inching up on 70 years old, first of all, I think he's crazy. Second of all, I'm not convinced he's going to make the right decision. I know that a lot of you feel the same way. So we'll see. Anyway, I think we're going to learn a lot about what he has to say. I think if he's not going to be the GM going forward, we're going to find that out this week at his press conference. He'll tell you. They're going to let him be the one to tell you whether he is or not. If he doesn't say it, means he's coming back. He's going to be I will say this. I've criticized my friends, my colleagues quite a bit over the past few years by not asking enough tough questions. There's no way around it this time. They got to ask tough questions. They're going to ask Mickey Loomis. That's why He's preparing for whatever it is, whether it's him not coming back or whatever it is. He's preparing. He knows the questions are coming. He's going to have to answer them. Again, whether that's, look, I'm going to just be a advisor or I'm still the GM and there's nothing you can do about it. Whatever it is, he's going to have plenty of questions to ask about him. But you look at this foes list next year, and look, it's a navigatable. I know I've used that. I made up that word several months ago, and I continue to use it every now and then because I like it. It's a navigatable schedule. If you can get the right person in here and fix this O-line and maybe get a D lineman or two, it can be done. I know I've said in the dime that I don't have a lot of hope. The reason why I don't have a lot of hope is because I'm not sure they're going to make the right decisions. I'm not just talking about coach. I'm worried about the draft. Again, I'll say this again. If you can kind of fix this O-line, and Derek Carr is probably not going anywhere. I know you Derek Carr haters are rooting for him to go and the Saints eat the $50 million salary. I don't see it. They're not going to go out and get somebody in the draft this coming year, and there's no one in free agency that's better than Derek Carr, in my opinion. That they don't have money anyway. I think you have a chance to be, look, I know it's not what you want to hear, but I think that the Saints have a chance to be a bottom rung good team, if that makes any sense. They have a chance to be, I mean, I don't even know if they can be as good as Green Bay is right now next year. Probably not. But they have a chance to be the winner of this lousy division next year. Apathy. There's no tankathon. I'm never going to agree to a tankathon, ever. I'm never going to say Saints should lose this game on purpose, ever. If you think that I'm gonna, you haven't watched this show enough. Terrence agrees with me. You just don't lose on purpose. You know why? Because what does losing get you? It makes you a loser. They might do it on their own. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. And if you're looking for reasons to have hope, I'll give you this. And I'm going to go back to 2005. Again, I felt probably more confident in the team. And I didn't feel confident, but I felt more confident about the team in 2005 going into 2006 than I do now. I mean, I didn't know what Sean Payton was going to turn into. You didn't either. The fact is, the Saints went to the NFC Championship game a year after they went 3-13. You go back to the last Ditka year when I had no hope for this team whatsoever. Zero hope for this team. What did the Saints do in 2000 with Jim Haslett? Not only did they get to the playoffs and win the division and beat the greatest show on turf and Kurt Warner, but they won their first ever playoff game. I would have told you there was 0.0% chance that was going to happen at the end of the 99 season. Tanking is for losers. Amen. So there's always when you have hope, until you don't have hope, at the bare minimum. Look, I'm never for losing on purpose, but I'm especially not losing on purpose when you're 0-0. It doesn't make any sense. Tanking gets you nothing but losing and misery and heartbreak for another year. I don't want to go through what we went through this year again. Remember last year, and I'm going to show you, in case you didn't see our banner this week or today. Remember last year? The end of last year, I'm sorry. It was the quote from Dennis Allen. That was a year ago. Today, we're sorry. Not as we're sorry about what we're watching. It means this is a sorry-ass franchise. That's the sorry I meant when I typed that in. That's where we are right now. It's not acceptable. What we watched this year has not been acceptable. I don't give a damn who got hurt. The reason why people got hurt is because some of them are flukes. Absolutely. But when people get hurt for other teams, they step up. Look at the Detroit Lions last night. Detroit Lions are missing key pieces of their defense. They're missing, either their best running back or their second best running back, certainly apart. They have a 2 running back system. Half of that system has been out for 3 weeks now. They still win it. They won the division. They're 15-2. They're the best team in football right now. I think there's any arguing that. They have the same record as the Chiefs, and I know the Chiefs played yesterday with no one and you didn't expect to win and whatever. But I don't think anyone questions the fact that as far as the team goes, the Detroit Lions are the best team in football. They've had their share of injuries too. Look at the Tampa Bay Bucks yesterday who won the division. They're missing 4 starters on defense. Now, again, I'm not giving a whole lot of credit to the Rat Man and this Saints offense, which is not good. But they still held the Saints to 3 second half points after they gave up 16 in the first half with 4 starters out. Good teams don't make excuses. Good teams don't need to make excuses because they have enough depth. We can't do this again, okay? That's why there needs to be so many changes, and it should have happened after last year. I mean, we sat here and told you. You go back and listen to the show. You can find it. It's easy to find. I don't know what number it is, but it's easy to find. It's a year ago. What would a Monday have been? The 4th? Last year? I don't know. Whatever day it was. You can go back and find it. But I said this last year. Changes needed to be made then. They weren't made. Now they kind of have. They just have to be made. Detroit roster is way better than the Saints. You're missing the point. No duh that it's better than the Saints. You're missing the point. Good teams don't make excuses. It doesn't matter how good or bad your roster is. There are teams out there that are winning, that have won. Look at Cincinnati's roster. Cincinnati's roster is as good as Detroit's almost. Their O-line isn't as good as Detroit's, but the rest of their damn team, I think, is. Joe Burrow's definitely better than Jared Goff. Joe Burrow's receivers are better than Jared Goff's receivers. Chase Young turned into a pretty damn good running back. Running game probably wasn't as good. What happened to them? They finished 9-8 and out of the playoffs. Look at the Houston Texans. You could argue the Houston Texans have a roster almost as good as the Detroit Lions. They had injuries. They stunk down the stretch. They're still in the playoffs, but again, I'm taking up for the Lions here. I mean, for the most part, the Vikings went into that game last night way more healthy than the Lions. Got their ass kicked in the second half. Good teams don't make excuses. I want this to be a team, once again, and you go back to when the Saints were 13-3 and 12-4, and you expected them to be 11-5 and 12-4 and 13-3. You go back to those times, Sean Payton didn't make excuses. Didn't have to. Because his teams were good. Good teams don't make excuses because they don't have to. It's like we talk about Spencer Rattler or whomever. Doesn't matter who it is. Talk about Derek Carr, doesn't make a difference. Talk about Alvin Kamara and talk about whoever. You don't make excuses. Again, shows for the offseason. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about it for sure. That is going to pretty much wrap it up. Again, rest of the week schedule. If you here's another one, Tom says. Tom Trice. Good teams don't tolerate unsportsmanlike penalties. Oh. Man. I don't know, man. Undisciplined. That's part of it too. Depth and no discipline. Other than that, they're fine. Again, plenty of things to get to as we go forward. Rest of the week, again, I was going to try to do Wednesday one show with Mike and but I didn't want to take away. I didn't want to rush anybody. So Mike Detillier is coming on Wednesdays. Just he and I, the first 20 minutes, we'll talk to you. It'll be us. Mike's going to come on about 11:20. We'll see how long he goes. He's usually good to talk about an hour or so. We'll see how that goes. And Thursday is a straight pick'em show. That's all Thursday is going to be. I'll have a short monologue, and then we're going to get into the pick'ems. We'll be doing the 2 college games, the semifinals, and then we're going to be predicting the 6 NFL playoff games. The way it's going to work, we're going to have a fun format, kind of like the point system that UBN and I have been using. You're going to have either 30 or 40 points. I'm not exactly sure, but you can't use more than 10 points on one game, and you got to use at least 1 on every game. So you have to pick every game, something from every game. That'll be Gabe and UBN and I. And then on Friday, Larry Holder will be here as he always is. We'll talk a little Saints, and we'll look ahead to the wild card round. So it is going to be a whole lot of fun. And UBN says, will we make our Super Bowl picks? Sure. Well, maybe Super Bowl picks. Sean says the Bengals are sitting at home just like us because of the trash defense. No. I don't. Again, you can't just blame. You can go back and, again, I got to end the show, but you can go back to look at, they had games where their offense kind of stunk it up too. Just saying. They have a horrible head coach. I feel very similarly. Well, I don't want to get into a whole other story. The Bengals are in a very similar situation to the situation the Chargers have been in before this year. Just saying. And until they make a change, they're not going to get any better either. All right. Hopefully on Wednesday's show as well, maybe we'll have some answers. Maybe we'll have more answers than we have today. I don't know. I doubt it. I think we're going to have some answers of something this week. I'm sure there will be more rumors about who's going to come interview with the Saints. We already know David Shaw. If you didn't hear this, David Shaw was interviewing with the Saints. That's a Peyton Tree thing. That's not real. David Shaw is not going to be coaching this team. If he is, then we're going to have a really, really miserable show at some point in the near future. Ugh. Positive thoughts, right? No more Derry down until we find out exactly what's going to happen. We're going to talk more about the Saints 2025 foes with Larry. I got a feeling he's just not going to care who they are until they get better, right? And again, we'll see what Detillier says on Wednesday and how the Saints get out of football purgatory. Can they do it in the near future? That's going to wrap it up for us on this Monday. I want to thank today's guest, which is you. You were today's guest on another Mano E Monday. We hope you can join us, of course, as we told you, on Wednesday when we'll welcome in WWL's Mike Detillier. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Excuse me. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more, and find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. You can find my stuff, the little writing that I do, but you can always find it, the show there as well on bet.nola.com. We always have some great offers for you. And then our insiders, they are going to be busy this week. Our Saints insiders, you can check them out on NOLA.com/Saints. They're going to have a show, I think, either Wednesday or they're going to have a show if something happens, a major story happens before, they will also have a show then. But they're going to have a show on Wednesday as well. Rainy Cajun says, send some king cake. Did you hear me not talk about my New Year's resolution, which, by the way, is still going well? It's only January 6th, but still going well. I ain't going anywhere near a king cake. Not even from my people. As Kelly says, stay warm. Absolutely. It's going to be a cold week. Hopefully it'll be warm in the studio when we talk to you on Wednesday. Stay warm. We will see you then. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.